My mom have been trying to get rid of my husband and acting like she's the victim. I, 22F, have been married to my husband, 37M, for 4 years. Yes, I married a man in his 30s when I was 18, no, I was not groomed. It was more of a SWB, strangers with benefits, relationship at first. We didn't really know our ages. We knew that we had an age gap between us, but we didn't know how big it was. When we found out the correct age I was already pregnant, so we both decided to say, skip it. We made it this far. Why not see it to the end? He's big, sweet, adorable. He's amazing with our daughter and he takes really good care of me. I couldn't have asked for a better husband. My mom hates my husband, but not for the reasons you think. They went to high school together, this town is small as hell. Everybody knows everybody, and apparently how she acted back then is the same as how she acts now. She was a spoiled brat that cried when she didn't get her way. Hell, I have a memory of her throwing a tantrum like a child in a mall, because my granddad wouldn't buy her the purse she wanted. She used to fight me and my siblings for our grandparents' attention all the time. My mother was in her teens when she had me, but that didn't stop her from controlling my siblings and I. We were her puppets throughout our childhood. Also she was / is a massive manipulator. That's why my mom hates my husband, she keeps trying to control me and my husband standing in a way of that. It took me watching my mother-in-law interact with my husband and his siblings to realize, oh. So this is how a mother should treat their children. My mom keeps trying to separate me from him. She has been trying everything in the book to get me to leave my husband, from lying about him to making everything he does towards me a big deal. The lies that my mom told about my husband range from very hilarious to just downright infuriating. One time my mom told me that someone sent her screenshots of my husband's conversation with his supposed mistress. Why would an anonymous person send my mom, his screenshots of someone else's conversation instead of his wife? Telling me that she overheard my husband said that he didn't love my daughter and I, that he's only using me for sex, which is something that we barely have. She planted small lace underwear underneath the living room couch. When I found it, I didn't immediately blame my husband. My mom wanted me to blame my husband but I didn't. My mom thanks my husband for being aggressive / controlling with me. My husband is 6 feet 8 inches 300 pounds pure muscle, but he's a golden retriever in a human's body. He's a man-child. He is always happy, very energetic and is just a sweetie. My husband loves to pick me and our daughter up then slam us on the mattress. We think it's fun. Or, on a really special occasion, if I'm lying down he will come up and lay his full body weight on me. She thinks that a husband shouldn't do such things. That they should treat their families like a delicate flower wrapped up in a pillow. She even told me that he was holding me captive because sometimes he would body block the door frame. I love when my husband acts like that because when he's not acting immature, that means he's stressed or depressed. So when my husband slams us against the mattress that means he's okay and that's okay with me. Also food, that my husband is controlling my eating. I am intolerant to mostly all animal products. My husband realizes that I always get sick when I eat cheese or chicken, so he stops really bringing it into the house. My mom thinks that my husband is controlling my eating because, if he really loved you he would let you eat what you want. He's going to starve you to death, not minding the fact that my acne clear up. I don't sound like a baby elephant when blow my nose in the morning. But no, my husband is starving me and he is definitely not worrying about my health. Then it's the fear-mongering. My husband has a history of violence and my mom keeps using his history to try and put fear into me. Like I said above, my parents and my husband went to high school together. My mom told me all the time she witnessed my husband get arrested, or be dragged into the principal's office for beating a kid. My husband was in the same gang with my dad so he was a violent delinquent. My mom only told me this because she was worried about my safety. I know about my husband's past behavior because he told me and my dad told me all the times that they got into trouble. However, the way my mom described my husband was like her trying to tell me that he is / was a violent man. Like my husband's going to snap on me any day and kill me and our daughter in our sleep. She told me not to have any more children with him because I would forever be attached to him and I couldn't leave if it got too violent. My husband never laid his hands on me or our daughter, he doesn't yell at us or any of the sort. My husband got help with these issues in his early 20s. He left the streets and has been happy-go-lucky ever since. Now, you're probably wondering why my mom is in my life when she acts like this. My mom being around me is new as I lost my dad almost 7 months ago, right after I found out I was pregnant. He was my daddy and my daughter's best friend. I know how crazy my mom is, but I felt like I needed a parent. So I started letting her back in but only a little bit at a time. Clearly, now, it was a mistake. My mom has been trying to control my pregnancy ever since she found out and gets so pissy when my husband stops her weird shit. Then her tactics switched to saying that a mom should do this to a mom should do that, and back in my day when I was pregnant with you and your sibling I did such and such, I smoked and drank while I was pregnant with your siblings and they all turned out fine. No, they didn't, keep telling me that I'm not going to be a real mom if I get a C-section. Which, likely, is going to happen. Now, on to last week. My leg just gave out and I went tumbling down the stairs. The worst pain in my life, and I pushed out my daughter's fat-ass head. Edit. Apparently people is confused by that sentence. What I meant by that was giving birth to my 4-year-old daughter was very painful, but falling down the stairs and breaking my leg was worse. My mom was freaking out while my husband was trying to find a good way to pick me up without hurting me. Luckily my daughter was at my mother-in-law's. So I was on the couch in pain, worrying that I might lose my children. My husband went in the room to get his stuff together to take me to the hospital, leaving me alone with my mom. She got evil. She was controlling back in my childhood, but this is the messed up thing she has done to me. She told me to get up and that I should just walk off the pain. That I'm a mother and that I need to start powering through. I told her that I couldn't move, that my arm and leg hurt. Then that woman proceeded to grab me by the mess up arm and try to make me stand up. I was on the ground from the pain and I couldn't stand up, so she started to basically drag me. I have never seen my husband angry before, but he pushed her away and gave her this terrifying face. He picked me up to take me to the car, while my mom was trying to argue with him. So I got to the hospital in excruciating pain, while freaking the hell out. My husband eventually had to go back home. When he went back to the house, my mom was still there and tried to pick a fight with him. According to my husband, things got physical, because my mom went into great detail of how he's abusing my daughter and that she might not have proof, but she's going to prove it. He almost hit my mom, but he restrained himself and only left a bruise from where he grabbed her. To be honest, I would have slapped the shit out of that woman. I'm back home now and everything has gone to chaos. My mom used the altercation she had with my husband to her benefit, saying that he assaulted her and that my accident wasn't an accident. This is the worst experience I have ever had, mostly because I'm now dealing with flying monkeys. Questioning my love for my mom, because how can I be okay standing by my husband? I fell down the stairs. I even could have lost my kids, and my mom is doing this shit. There are a lot of people who believe my mom's story and a few who don't. I try to talk to people and tell them the truth about what really happened, but they aren't listening to me. Now my husband is being harassed. People calling him a woman beater and POS. Someone scratched up his car and popped the tires. He is sad. He is trying to act all happy like he usually does, but I know when he's faking a smile. And my daughter is very confused. She doesn't know what's going on. I don't know how to explain why daddy's car is all messed up or why she's not allowed to see grandma. We haven't left the house, answered our phones or answered the door because people won't leave us alone. I could have avoided all of this if I just never let that woman back in. This is on me. Now what have I gone through in the past week? 1. We explained to my daughter in a kid-friendly way what grandma has done and why she can't see her. Grandma had lied about daddy and grandma made daddy and mommy sad. My daughter doesn't really get it, but she is okay with not seeing grandma. 2. The police showed up. They were doing a wellness check because apparently no one has heard from me in a while. Then one of them had the brightest question and asked me why haven't I called my mother recently. She's worried about me. I haven't called my mother recently cause, you know, she telling everybody and their goddamn mama that my husband pushed me down the stairs. Then a few days after they showed up again, but this time with the activation that my husband is abusing us. To be honest, I snapped. Nothing but angry tears and angry swearing came out of me. I was just so tired, I just wanted to be left alone with my family. 3. I decide to make an internet post telling people that I'm tired of them, family, friends, flying monkeys, harassing my family, attacking my husband and believing my mother's stupid lies. I get it. They are worried about me and I'm fine with that, but I don't appreciate that they believe my mother and refuse to even listen to me. I just wanted them to stop. They didn't stop, they got worse. However, an hour after I made that post, my grandfather came to talk to me. He told me that he knows his daughter is crazy and he would do anything in his power to make this better. I don't know exactly what my grandfather did, but the mob has stopped. You all don't know how relieved I am. They are still trying to contact me just to talk and have a meeting with me, but now I can cut on my phone without it blowing up with messages. Now, to the reason why I'm making an update. The wicked bitch of the East finally made an appearance. I have been stuck in this house since I broke my leg. I've been getting tired of being here, so I asked my BL and SIL, they have been taking care of me when my husband goes to work, to take me out. They were hesitant at first, but eventually they popped me and my daughter into the van and we surprised my husband at work with food. The incident with my husband's car made us realize that our house wasn't safe, so we invested in security. As I was eating tacos with my family, I got a notification from my security, and what do you know, it was my mom. I have been ignoring her calls and text messages, and that's a new deadly sin apparently. My mom started banging on the door with my little sister screaming that she knows I'm in there, and that monster, my husband, is trying to take me and her grandbaby away. We were watching my mom throw a tantrum at the front door for a good solid minute because it was funny. But when my sister was ready to throw a rock through our window to get inside our house, that's when we decided to address them. We told them to get off of our property, that I don't want to see my sister and especially not my mom. And that's me talking, not my husband. My mom said, "I'm sorry, baby, please open the door." I told her no, not after everything she did. She lied to everybody and told them that my husband pushed me down the stairs and my husband assaulted her unprompted. My mother screamed he did assault her and he even had the audacity to try to hit her. I said, "That's your fault. Don't blame my husband. What you said was disgusting and if I was him I would have bitch slapped you." My mother told me that I could not talk to her like that. That she is my mom and her DNA runs through my veins. I told her that my dad's DNA also runs through my veins as well, and his DNA in me wants to beat your face in with a sock full of pennies. That caused my mom to go into a frenzy, so we called the cops and told them that there were 2 people at our house. That we already told them to leave but they refused to. When police got there they took my sister and my mom to talk with them for a little bit and then one cop came up to the house to try to talk to us. We talked to them through the security camera, and explained that we don't know those people. You know, like a liar, no matter how much they claim to be my mother/sister, we don't know them. They're strangers. Eventually they left and we waited for a while to go back home, just in case my family was secretly waiting for me in the shadows of something. My mom did try to go on another social media rant saying that oh my husband is keeping me captive and shit, but luckily my grandfather shut that down. Update 1. Yesterday. However, my mom showed me back up to the house yesterday. I was asleep when it happened but my husband, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-law and the security camera explained it to me. My in-laws were on the porch when my mom pulled up. She just wanted to see me for sure I was alive. My BALs and SIL didn't let her in the house and threatened to call the police. Mom accused them of helping my husband abuse my daughter and I. My husband came out and he started arguing with my mom as well. She kept calling him the usual, abuser. While everyone was distracted, one of my brother-in-law went inside of the house, went through the back door, went around the house, grabbed the garden hose, dragged that to the front and then proceeded to spray my mother down with the garden hose. My mom tries to get away but she keeps flipping on the grass. Then my brother-in-law passed the hose to my husband and then he kept spraying her. My husband chased my mom with the hose, right to her car. And he didn't stop spraying. I'm pretty sure he got water in her car. He had the biggest smile during and after the hosing. I bet it felt good. Edit, thank you for the kind words and the awards. I don't know what they do, we're already on the restraining order thing, so don't worry about that. I showed some of your comments to my husband and when he seen how you all were worried about my safety and my family's safety brought a smile to his face. If I didn't respond to you that doesn't mean I didn't see you. I appreciate your comments. Update 2. My mother graffiti my father's grave to get my attention. You want an update about my mom, so here you go. I'm disgusted. After all the things my mom has done, this is the one that hurts the most. My parents were 15 when they had me. They got married and they lasted for 5 years because my father cheated. My mom tried everything in her power to get me to hate my dad. She told me that my daddy was a gangbanger, he sold drugs, dope, helped his uncle run his brothel sometimes and constantly in shootouts. This was all true as my dad was more unfortunate than my mom's side of the family, so the streets were his life. Even though he was like that, I never stopped loving my dad. How can you love your father when he cheated on me and ruined our family, was something I constantly heard in my childhood. I know cheating is wrong but I honestly feel like my dad used cheating as an out to get away from my mom. I always loved my daddy and even though he never paid child support, he was a gangbanger. He was my favorite parent because as an early age I know my mom was batshit. She's a spoiled brat then and she's a spoiled brat now. My husband said my mom has a personality of someone who would falsely accuse our bad word when she can't get her way, and he's right. I hate my mother. She ruined my childhood, she ruined my wedding, but she never ruined the relationship I had with my dad. I remember the time I was 6 years old, my dad went to prison for the first and my mom threw a celebration. Then threw a funeral when he got out when I was 11. It repeats. He went to jail when I was 13, my mom threw a party and then she threw a funeral when he got out when I was 15. He went to jail when I was 17 and got out some months later, and yet again my mother threw a party and a funeral. I had my wedding when I was 18 and I invited my dad. I wanted him to walk me down the aisle and my mom lost their shit. That's a long story for another time, and that's when I told my dad to quit that life. I was pregnant, he was going to be a granddad and I needed him. He promised me he would quit and he kept that promise. My dad was my everything. He was my daughter's BFF and he had a beer with my husband every Monday. 7 months ago when I found out I was pregnant again, someone broke into my dad's house and killed him in his sleep. He was shot point blank in his face with no remorse. I was the one who found him. He missed the date he had planned with my daughter and he wasn't answering his phone, so I went to go check on him. I will never forget the image of my father lying in his bed, his brain and blood spattered on the wall. At his actual funeral my mother was in the back in all black, crying like she gave a damn. And when we were alone she looked me dead in the eye and told me that she's happy that racist slur for black people racist slur for Mexican people, he was half black and half Mexican, was finally in hell. Let's just say I didn't leave that church without some of her hair in my hand. And after all of that, my stupid ass let my psychopathic ass, effing C of an ass mother back in my life. Because my stupid effing hormonal ass wanted a effing parent. I wish I can go back in time and kick my stupid ass in a chest. And for the people who didn't read my post, you want to know how that turned out? Of here you go. You read that? You read how much of a mistake that shit was. Yeah, I know, and don't know how to explain why I let her back in when I have my in-laws. Now my mom didn't show up yesterday. I was surprised she didn't, but I should have known she was up to something. Every Saturday we visit my dad's grave just to talk. We bring him flowers, and as I know my dad burns a lot of bridges, so I'm one of the few family members who still do that for him. I missed a few weeks due to what happened in my last post, so I was ready to explode of how his fucking ex is a lunatic. My daughter was so excited just to talk to grandpa because she hadn't talked to him in a few weeks. I was in my wheelchair being pushed by the husband while my daughter was on my lap. We were excited. But my mom couldn't handle the fact that I was ignoring her on purpose, so she wrote, "I'm sorry, Addison," on his tombstone. She also smashed his pictures and things that I left out for him, like candles and some of his cars from his collection. How do I know that my mom did it? Because I took a picture of it and asked why did she did this, and her reply was, "That was the only way I know how to get you to respond to me, by disrespecting my dad's grave." I have stopped crying now, the tears are gone. Now I'm so ready to curve stomp her. It feels like I have found my dad's body all over again. So, we're waiting for the cops because apparently to Google that's illegal. I updated afterwards. Small update, my mom has been arrested. According to my stepdad, yes, she is married. She's on her third marriage, and that stupid SB thinks she has the right to tell me how to live mine. She punched a cop and clawed another in the face. I will update you all tomorrow. I'm about to go take a nap. I swear to God, if I wasn't pregnant right now I'll be so drunk. Update 3. Finally got that restraining order, but for the cost of my husband's and my sanity. I take it back. My mom is crazy enough to murder. Warning, violence, and this one is long. A few stakes are made in my 2 previous posts. My parents weren't 15 when they had me, they were still 14. They were almost 15, but they were 15 when they got married. And I realize I have been calling marijuana dope. It's marijuana. I grew up in a household where all drugs are called dope. I'm pretty stupid. I blame the kids I'm carrying. Also, yes, they got the guy who killed my dad and surprisingly have nothing to do with my mom. So what happened? After I posted my post we waited for the cops, and when they arrived they acted like they couldn't do shit. I have to point out that destroying a grave site is illegal. Graffiti is illegal. This is why the first time my sister and my mom showed up to my house I told the cops that they weren't related to me. Because I knew if I said they were, the cops would put it off like a family matter. Like they have been when my family shows up to my house. If someone's not dying the cops don't give a f here. Eventually we finally convinced them to go arrest my goddamn mom, knowing the cops they probably just went there to originally talk to her, and when they got there my mom fought them, and got arrested. I called my grandmother and told her what happened to my dad's grave. Then sent her the pictures. My grandmother was pissed to no end when I told her that her only son's grave was vandalized. Then I had to confirm it with my aunts when they called. I have a cousin, on my dad's side, who is my best friend, and he said, "I want to beat that bee's ass, me too sugar, me too." Well, my stepdad came over to talk to me, and that stupid, whipped man had the audacity to tell me not to press charges on my mom and that we should go to family therapy. Side note, never go to therapy with your abuser. I asked my stepdad why in the goddamn diggity f he married my mom, because I can't fathom that he actually married her. I still don't know how she convinced 2 other people to marry her. I actually asked my dad the same thing and he told me, "Your mom might be crazy, but she did have a fat ass." My stepdad couldn't give me a direct answer, and I just told him to get the f out of my house, and to keep that crazy bee of a wife of his away from me. My grandfather came over to try to comfort me. Personally, I'm not a big fan of my granddad because he let my grandma turn my mom into a effing C. I know my grandfather never really cared for my dad, but he was always respectful towards him, and my granddad knows how much my dad means to me. I just told my grandfather to keep his psychopathic children away from me. Tell them to leave my family alone. I don't want anything to do with his family. I'm already stressed to high F and my blood pressure is through the roof. My sister called me and chewed me out, because I ruined the family, and next time she sees me it's on sight like B. "You're effing 15 and pregnant, what you going to do?" She is the only one of my sibling that is on my mom's side, because my 2 other sibs do not care. So, my mom was arrested, however she was basically immediately released in the custody of my stepdad, most likely because of money. I guess my stepdad is good at one thing, and that's keeping my mom on her leash, because she has not bothered me. But she went on FB and said, and I quote, "I was arrested for trying to see my daughter. I was beaten, locked up in a jail cell with no water, and when I was released it was dark outside. I just wanted to see my daughter and my granddaughter, but no. I'm the villain. I'm the villain. To think that my own daughter will put me through a horrible, horrible thing. I know my daughter is not behind this. I know she would never do this. It's the pedo's fault, my husband, he turned my daughter against me. I will not stand for this injustice and mistreatment. I will fight to get my daughter back. I will fight to get my granddaughter away from that monster. Who's with me? She had her applause and a few hearts and cares. Until my cousin, bless his sassy bitch's soul, went to the comments to say, hey, yeah. This woman destroyed my cousin's grave. You all do know that, right? With proof, you are supporting the woman who vandalized a grave, trespassed and assaulted her pregnant daughter. You are blinded to this woman's assery that it's not even funny. You all think that it is Rose's fault, my husband's nickname, that Addison doesn't want anything to do with her mother, when she did nothing but ruin her life. You all should be ashamed of yourself. My mom's post was shortly removed. Besides the post, my mom has been quiet. People have been leaving me alone for the past couple days. It has been extremely quiet, until my doctor's appointment. I had a doctor's appointment and I have no idea how she found out about it, but she was waiting in the parking lot. My husband was pushing me through the door when my mom approached us. Everything happened at once. I was crying, my mom was screaming for people to call the police because my husband kidnapped me, my husband was screaming at my mom and the receptionist was trying to calm everybody down. Then I started screaming at my mom that I hate her. I hate her, she messed up my childhood, she messed up my family, and when she dies I'm going to piss on her grave. My mom went silent and stared at me for a little bit. Then, I shit you not, she pulled out a knife and charged at, not my husband, but at me. I thought the night my mom dragged me was the time I saw my husband angry. But I remember my dad once told me if I saw my husband angry, my husband would have nothing in his eyes, no life, no love, no empathy, nothing but emptiness. It's like looking into a black void that's only out for blood. I don't fear most men, not your mom, not the cops, but, Azalea, I'd rather kill myself than piss off Azalea. I thought I knew what my dad meant by that. I thought I knew. But as I watched my mother being pinned to the floor by her throat while my husband repeatedly hit her, I knew I was wrong. We learn something new every day, huh? I have never been afraid of my husband, but he frightened me at that moment. Some people were able to drag my husband off of my mom, but my mom was messed up. Then my mom and I were both being treated by doctors. I was being treated because I was in shock, silent crying, and my mom was being treated because she was gargling blood. Cops came, statements were taken, and my mom was carted off to the hospital. My husband was just crying and apologizing to me. And even when we got home my husband wouldn't stop crying. He just stood by my feet and kept crying and begging for forgiveness. I don't know what he was apologizing about. The fact that he hit the shit out of my mom, or the fact that he lost his cool like that. He hates himself now. He tries so hard not to become that person he once was, that violent man who would snap on anyone who looked at him wrong. It took him years to become the person he is now. My husband is crush. I had to call my brother-in-law to talk some sense into my husband, to try to make him see that what he did was protecting me. My husband understood, but he's still not acting like himself anymore. He's very quiet, not smiling, and refuses to leave my side like a lost puppy. I feel like shit. I really wish I never brought my mother back into my life. I know people told me not to feel sorry for myself because I knew I couldn't have known my mom would have done this, but I should have. On the good side, finally got that restraining order and we're moving. My grandmother, aunts, and my little brother, who I never mentioned, are finally able to move. I never really spent time with my dad's side of the family more than twice a year, as they live on the other side of the states, but they are finally able to move 30 minutes away from my husband's family country home. I'm so excited because I get to spend time with my little brother. Today we told my daughter that we're moving and we're moving to the countryside. She screamed, "I can get a goose." Then she started running around the living room table screaming, "I can get a goose. I can get a goose. I can name it Peter Dinklage." I don't know what is with her weird obsession with Goose or the sexy little man. However, when my husband saw the joy that my daughter was producing, he smiled. It was a little smile, but it was a smile and it was genuine. We're currently living with my mother-in-law because my mom's siblings decided to show up to my house. We're both very tired. My life has been turned upside down and I swear to God, these children are currently sitting on my bladder and they won't move. Also, we were able to get the spray paint off my dad's grave, so I'm pretty excited about that. Speaking of my dad, there were a few comments in my last post, calling my dad trashy, questioning me why I love him so much and telling me that my mom wasn't wrong. I'm going to talk about both my parents here. I'm paraphrasing about my dad's side of the family, because I don't remember that much and I don't want to ask them about it. My grandmother was from the USA and that's where she met my dad's father. She fell in love with him and she left her family to be with him in Mexico. My grandmother was beaten day in day out by her husband. Then she had my dad. My dad was beaten at early age. He was introduced to violence as he lived with a monster. My dad worked for his uncle's brothel. He would collect money and give it to his uncle, and he was a person who cleaned 90% of the rooms. By the way, he was 9 at the time. When my dad was 11, my grandma was able to contact her family in America and was able to leave her abusive husband with her 11, her 4-year-old, and with a baby on the way. Fast forward to when my dad met my husband. They were 13 and my husband accidentally bumped into my dad, and my dad told my husband to "Watch where you are going, you fat bitch," in Spanish. And my husband, who spent a long time abroad, turned around and said, "What the F you called me," in Spanish. They started shoving each other, then they broke out into an actual fist fight. After that they were friends ever since. Then when my dad was 14 he had me. I was holes in the condom, baby, and I will not deny my dad didn't want my existence, but my mom refused to get an abortion, so after I was born my parents got married when there's 15 and my dad was the best dad that he could be. Even though he was just a teen, he took better care of me than you could imagine. When I was 5 my dad cheated on my mom and they got divorced. Their relationship was toxic as hell, as my mom's AC. My dad told me that, and I will never forget this, "I might be leaving your mom but I'm not leaving you." My dad only got Sundays and he made those Sundays the best day of my life. When I was 6 my dad went to prison because my man was selling a lot of drugs. He was involved in gangs when I was little. It was mostly just street rats, the alley kids, the kids that try to act tough by riding on bicycles, holding bats and stealing other people's lunch money for zoom zooms and wham whams. He was a little angsty teenage punk and he got involved in the serious stuff after he divorced my mom. I wrote him letters and together my nanny, and I secretly mailed them to him while he was incarcerated, and it took for him dying to find out that he kept every letter I sent to him. He got out when I was 11 and it was such an amazing day for both of us. He went to all my school plays. I was in the Beauty and the Beast play when I was 12, and even though I was just a fork, my dad brought flowers and told me that he was proud of me. He did that for every type of place or recitals. My dad was quite active in my life and in my school life. My dad actually came to my science fairs. Basically, most of my school functions/event. Then my dad went to jail when I was 13 and released when I was 15. I don't remember what my dad was arrested for at that time, but when my dad got out we celebrated like it was 1999 and once again he was being my dad. By that time I stopped giving shit about the court orders and started spending time with him. I will never forget the time I spent with my dad. The only good thing his dad taught him was how to make things out of clay, and my dad taught me that too, and that was our thing. So my dad and I would watch the TV show, The Whitest Kids You Know, and make a little clay charms. Then he got locked up again when I was 17, but this time they didn't have the right guy. It took for my grandfather to become his lawyer to get him out of jail. Then the time he got out my dad got a girlfriend and they were about to get married. Fast forward when I was 18. My dad reunited with my husband and they built a pretty good friendship. Then fast forward to my wedding, I told my dad to stop that life. Stop selling weed, stop hanging out with his stupid ass friends, leave the streets, and that I was pregnant. I need him. It took me by surprise how easily I convinced my dad to give up that life. To be honest, I'm pissed that I'd never tried to do that when I was younger. He was straight-laced for 4 years. He even had another kid. My dad tried his best to be an amazing father. My brother is 3 now and I think my dad did a pretty good job. He still smoked pot, and to be honest, I did smoke with him. But up until his death he was straight-laced, and when I say I will never forget the sight of his death, it scarred me for the rest of my life. But you are probably thinking, your dad was a street thug. He sells drugs. I bet the image you have of my dad is a light-skinned man wearing a white beater, do-rag on his head, wearing gold chain, saggy pants and holding a 40 in his hand. That's not my dad. He wasn't trashy. If you first met him you would think he was just an average dude that has street smart cause that's how he dresses himself. I had no idea that that was my dad's life because he hid it from me. He actually never bought that life around me. Even when my mom told me that my dad was a thug I didn't believe her. Hell, I still didn't believe it when my dad confirmed it cause that's not how he acted. I never saw it. I will never forget my dad for how he loved me and how he taught my daughter how to pick locks. God damn it, Dad. Nothing in this house is sacred anymore. Also to the F who asked me in DMs if I was ever assaulted by my dad, and that's why I marry my husband, cause I have a bad taste in men. I hope your butthole gets itchy at the worst embarrassing time imaginable. Now, on to my mom. My grandparents met in London. My grandmother was spending her summer there and my grandfather was on a business trip. They both came from money and they got married because their parents thought it was a good business deal. My grandparents had my uncle, then had my good uncle, he has always been on my side, then my other uncle, then my aunt, and finally my mother. My mom was the baby of the family and she was treated like the baby of the family. She got anything she wanted, and when she cried or screamed she still got what she wanted. My grandma spoiled her, and in her eyes my mom could do nothing wrong. She was very privileged, went to private schools, owned a horse, had a treehouse, and for her 16th birthday she got a sports car. She wasn't oppressed or had a terrible childhood. She was just a spoiled C. Then I was born. Okay, People I have a few comments asking me if my mom liked my husband back in high school. Was she jealous of my relationship with my husband? I asked my husband because I was actually curious. When I think about it, my mom did some really sus things when she was around my husband. He told me that my mom would follow him and my dad around like a weird lovesick child. My husband didn't really interact with my mom because he knew how crazy she was, so he kept his distance. Then he thought about it more and realized he was almost my dad. I think it's fucking hilarious, but my husband thinks it's extremely weird. Let's just say my mom came on too strong and my husband was not interested. Well, my mom couldn't get my husband, so she went for my dad. My mom brought her own protection. She's put holes in it and my mom baby trapped my dad with me. In my last post someone said, I bet Ops dad or Ops grandfather pressure Ops mom and not having an abortion. No. They legit did the opposite. They didn't want me to exist, because you know, they were 14. But no. My mom wanted me to exist, and even my grandma believed that my mom would be a good mother. So when I was born my mom just wanted a doll. A plaything that she could dress up and post on social media. She didn't want to be a parent, she just wanted dolls. A puppet that she could control, and I think I was 3 when she stopped loving me and I was just her accessories. She always pushed me onto nannies and never really spent any time with me. To the outside world she was the perfect teen mom that completely gloats about her daughter. And about how she tries to wrangle a toddler and high school at the same time. But, when nobody was around she would scream at me. She would ignore me on purpose and she would cry when I didn't do something a certain way. Or I didn't want to take pictures and big poofy dresses so she could post them on MySpace. Or whatever the fuck was popular at the time. My parents divorced when I was 5 because my dad cheated. I won't deny their relationship was toxic as hell. They constantly scream at each other. My mom threw things at my dad 100% of the time, she even chased him down the stairs with a knife once. When my dad left my mom she tried everything in her power to get me to hate him. And she realized she couldn't break the bond that I had with my dad, so she stopped letting me see him. Once it was my dad's visitation day and my mom didn't want me to go with him, so she called the cops on him. My dad didn't want to deal with the cops, so he just left. This happened a few times. My grandma even called the cops on my dad as well, but my grandfather stepped between that and made them stop. When I was 8 I got into a screaming match with my mom, and I told her that I wish she was in prison instead of my dad, and that's how I found out what he did for a living. I didn't believe her. But it was true, and the only reason why she told me that stuff was to try to get me to see my dad in a bad light, but that never worked. My mom never went to any of my school events, and all the time she did she was there to yell at my dad, or to take pictures to post on social media to try to act like she was a good parent. And this comment that someone said, OP's dad or OP's grandfather pressure OP's mom and not having an abortion, they also said, she was 15 she had the rights to be selfish. I'm curious, did she have the right to be selfish when my mom pretended that she didn't know me in public, and even yelled at me to go find your Mexican dad? Did she have the right to be selfish when she personally ran over my dog with her horse, because my grandfather didn't buy her the car she wanted, but instead buy me the dog I wanted? Did she have the right to be selfish when my mom slept with my 17-year-old boyfriend and then rubbed it in my face? Did she have the right to be selfish when she destroyed the Christmas tree and threw a tantrum like a child when I was 11, because I constantly played with the toy my dad bought me than the makeup set she got me? Did she have the right to be selfish when my mom called me a disgusting waste of DNA when she found out I was bisexual? Did she have the right to be selfish when she destroyed every action figure I had because I didn't want to take a picture with her? Did she have the right to be selfish when all the time she argued/fought my siblings and I for our grandparents' attention? Did she have the right to be selfish when she lied about me to my grandparents and sat there and laughed as they yelled at me? Did she have the right to be selfish when she forced me to do her essay, and got mad at me when I only got 90%? Not bad for a 10-year-old me, I do say myself. Did she have the right to be selfish when she used to make fun of me with her friends, calling my hair nappy, calling me the N-word, saying I deserve nothing? Did she have the right to be selfish when she hits me or jumps at me just to make me flinch? This is the woman you're rooting for. This same woman threw my wedding cake at my dad. This is the woman who asked my husband if he enjoyed the taste of our daughter. Don't make assumptions about my life when you were not there. What? Do you think I was brainwashed by my dad or something? That's why I hate my mom. I have reasons, and now you know though, and this is just a small sliver of what she did. I didn't tell you all about the time that she destroyed apartment stores or that she couldn't accept the fact that my dad was talking to another girl. So she went to that girl's house and destroyed her family's car. Don't assume a thing. Alright, get that out of my system. There still are a lot of legal things going on, but for right now I'm going to go to sleep now. I really wish I never let that woman back into my life. Edit, thank you for the awards. I'm very tired, but from the bottom of my heart. My family is doing okay, my husband is alright. He's currently playing Minecraft with his brother. My daughter is sleeping. We have been keeping her out of the loop, so she doesn't really know that much about what's going on. Now, I'm about to go see if my depressed ass can produce some serotonin by crocheting. Update 4. Even though we moved, we can't get away from them. I'm angry, but I think it's because of the babies that I'm not that angry. I'm going to start it from Halloween because that's when it starts. So, Halloween. Or, as my daughter call it, Halloween, she pronounces her E as W's, it was that time of year where you can scare children and with no consequences. My husband loves Halloween, because his huge ass is addicted to sugar and he likes to just dress up with us as a family. This year my husband was supposed to dress as Charizard while my daughter and I dressed as Charmeleon and Charmander. Well, my Charmeleon costume couldn't fit in my wheelchair, so we let our daughter just dress up as Charmander and my husband took our girl trick-or-treating, while I stay home and give out candy to the rest of the little kids. My daughter and husband were so excited. My husband, screaming, "Do you want to go trick-or-treating?" My daughter, also screaming, "Yeah, I want to go trick-or-treating." My husband, still screaming, "You want to get some good candy?" My daughter, also still screaming, "Yeah, I want to get some good effing candy." My husband, still screaming, "Let's effing go." My daughter, also still screaming, "Let's effing go." Me, language, both my husband and my daughter, at the same time, sorry. They are the same person, I swear. When we were picking out our costumes, my husband was just screaming, "Charmeleon," and my daughter will reply back with, "Wartortle." Just that one part of the Pope rap and that's it. I only add that in here, because I think it's cute and no one can tell me otherwise. As I handed out the candy I started having pains. I paid no attention to the pain as the twins were always throwing off my groove the whole entire pregnancy. But, no, I was going into labor. My AIL brought me inside, MIL called her son, then I was sent off to the hospital, and then my son and my daughter were born. There were some complications, but we're doing okay, the twins and I. When my daughter was introduced to her siblings, she was surprised that the babies are named after Grandpa, my dad. My little brother, on my dad's side, was introduced to his nephew and niece, and it was a sweet moment. We were able to bring the babies home a couple days ago and I'm so happy. These children look like their dad. I carried your heavy asses and nearly for 9 months, got my shit ripped open, just for you two coming out looking like your father. The audacity. My oldest looks just like daddy, but mommy can't get shit, apparently. My husband even rubbed it in my face that the twins looks just like him and that I can't even have one of them. Now, when my mother went to the hospital after she got her face caved in by my husband, it really wasn't that bad. She had a broken nose, a few missing teeth and some scars/bruising, but she could have died. I can't wait for the bitch's heart to stop. I have help on the inside, my grandpa, my good uncle, my 2 younger brothers, to keep an eye on my mom. Now, when my mother went to the hospital after she got her face caved in by my husband, it really wasn't that bad. She had a broken nose, a few missing teeth and some scars/bruising, but she could have died. I can't wait for the bitch's heart to stop. I have help on the inside, my grandpa, my good uncle, my 2 younger brothers, to keep an eye on my mom. Apparently, when my mother basically stopped being sedated, she tried A, breaking out of the hospital, and B, fighting the nurses/doctors. She even got a psych eval. My extended family, my mom's siblings, realize we moved and have been trying to figure out where we live now by harassing movers, harassing our neighbors, and harassing my husband when he has to go back to the old house. They even waited outside of our house for one of us to return. My family and I have been living in my husband's country home. I have really good fun memories here, a lot of them involving my dad. We haven't got the goose yet, we were waiting for spring to get Mr. Peter Dinklage, but still. I get to see my father's side of the family, his sisters, his mom and my little brother all the time, and they basically have been here every day helping with the twins. They are staying with us until their home is ready to move into, and I love them so much. When my grandma arrived, she brought some old photo albums for us to look through, and found several pictures of my dad that I had never seen before. Most of my neighbors are so sweet and my daughter has been making new friends, and she is already biting people. This morning I got woken up by my aunts coming into my room, holding my daughters and son. I was confused, then I realized I heard screaming from outside. My mom's siblings found out where I live and they wanted to see the twins. I started having a panic attack, the babies were crying and one of my aunts was trying to calm us down while the other one called 911. My phone started ringing and it was my good uncle. He was trying to warn us that his siblings were on the way and I told him it was too late. He told me that he and my grandfather were on the way. I looked through my phone and saw that both my grandfather and my uncle called me a lot. They were trying to warn me. The cops came and told my mom's siblings to leave, then my family were packed up into the car and now we're staying at my BL's. Come to find out that my mom knows about twins and has been posting pictures of them on Facebook. I don't know who gave Satan a cell phone, but they need their ass hoop. She posted pictures of my daughter in her Halloween costume and her siblings has been updating my life on FB. But, she also blocked everybody that's on my side from seeing her statuses. The only reason why we found out about what my mom has done is cause my god-grandfather daughter wasn't blocked from seeing my mom's post. She told her BF, who is my cousin, and he told my grandfather. We don't know who did this. Who in the right mind told my mom this information, let alone pictures of the twins? I'm pissed. We moved to get away from them and now they know where we live. They know my children, they know so much about what happened during the birth of my twins. I have no idea who gave my mom this information. We can't think of anybody who would do such a thing. Update 5. My mom lost all of her children and as revenge, set my brother-in-law's house ablaze. Hello people, I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving with family that love you. We did have a wonderful Thanksgiving, but it got outshadowed by my mom going full pyro. Here's an update about my shitey mom, but first I'll talk about my sister. For the people who don't know, my little sister was extremely entitled and bratty just like my mom. And who, just like my mom, baby trapped her boyfriend. Instead of ignoring her like me and my other sibs do, she had her head up my mom's ass. When my mom was arrested, my sister told me that it was my fault. That I ruined the family, and when she sees me she is going to kick my ass. Some nights ago my husband woke me up and told me that my sister was at our house on our porch. My husband asked, what do we do? Call the cops? I mean, that was my first plan because it was like 4 o'clock in the morning and I don't like my sister, but I'm an adult and I can use my words. I told my sister to leave because, 1, I don't like her and, 2, it was 4 a.m. But, I realized my sister was crying and in her arms was her new baby. She told me that living with our mother was awful and she couldn't go back to that house. I asked, after all she did to my family, why should I help her? And how did I know that her cry for help was not a way to trap one of us? She just kept crying, begging me for help. Then something in me snapped. That big sister in me, that I hit over the head with a shovel and buried in the backyard years ago, came back to life. I told my husband to get my baby sister. When my husband came back with my sister, she looked awful. We talked for hours and it was very emotional for the both of us. We just cried and my sister begged for my forgiveness. She was just apologizing for all things she'd done, from taking our mother's side to calling my daughter and I retarded. Both of us are autistic and I'm pretty sure my husband is also. Then she started apologizing to my husband. My sister got on her knees just apologizing and begging us not to send her back to my mom's. As my sister and I talked, I found out how bad my mom got. My mom became abusive towards my sister, hitting and yelling at her even when my sister did something that our mom approved of. When my siblings and I were younger, I always took the hits for them. Like if my sister drew on the wall with crayon, I'll tell my mom I did it, so my sister wouldn't get in trouble. I was the oldest, so it was my duty to shield the little ones. My mom was having loud sex with men all over the house, the living room, the kitchen, even in my baby nephew's room. My mom was doing pills now and tried to get my sister into it. My sister admits that my mom is the one who called CPS. I forgot to mention that, but yeah. In my first post when I wrote about the cop showing up to our house, I forgot to mention the CPS worker. I thought I added in there, but going back over it with my husband I realized I didn't. I just kept forgetting to add that in as everything just started to delve deeper into hell. I kind of mentioned that the cops, and the CPS worker, were here to follow up on the accusations that my husband was abusing our daughter and I. The abuse ranged from sexual to physical and I had a feeling my mom was behind it, but I had no proof. My sister told us that my mom had plans on filing for grandparents' rights, but grandparents' rights isn't a thing here. While I was talking to my sister, her son started crying and then she started crying some more, covered her ears and started screaming at her son to shut up. The baby was just hungry. My sister started crying hard and saying that she couldn't do it. She couldn't take care of her son. In my last post someone asked, if your grandpa cut your mom off, how does she have money? Or something like that. Well, I mentioned my grandmother gave my mom a lot of money when she died, but I also mentioned the family theory, that my grandfather gave my mom money to have a hysterectomy. Well, it turns out that is not a theory, but it is true. My mom got a case of the baby rabies, so she pressured my 14-year-old sister into poking holes into her condoms. So when the next time my sister has sex with her boyfriend she will get pregnant and my mom would become a grandma. My mom promised to help with my sister's son, but ever since the baby has been born my mom hasn't left a finger to help. Besides taking pictures of him in shirts saying, "Grandma's baby," and shit like that. I'm surprised that my sister believes that, because my mom did not even take care of her. I asked what about the baby's father. She told me that he left her cause she admitted to him that she baby trapped him. I asked what about the housemaids and the nannies. My mom had some type of mental break and fired all of them. I then asked her about her dad, has she tried to contact him? She told me that he gave up on her a long time ago and that he doesn't want anything to do with her. My sister just broke down saying she can't take care of her son. She loves him but she doesn't want her son and she doesn't know what to do. I found out my sister hadn't slept for days, so I told her to get some rest and I'll take care of her son and I'll try to contact her dad. The same night I was able to call her dad and explain that things are crazy here, and if he can try and help his daughter that would be nice. He was so adamant that he did not want anything to do with his child and I can understand. My sister fucked him up mentally and he felt betrayed by the actions of my sister. I understand that, but his daughter needs him. And besides 4 of my bills live in this house with their families, she can't stay here. I told him to do it for his grandson, which shocked him, because he didn't know my sister was pregnant. He sighs and says he would see what he can do. My sister slept for 2 days, and in that time my mom realized my sister was gone. My mom started to freak out and report my sister as missing. I call my granddad so he can tell his crazy-ass child that her daughter is in good hands. I told my granddad that I was able to contact my sister's father, and I shared what my sister told me. I told him to make sure my little brothers are safe. Now that my sister left, my mother probably will go crazy and might try to take the boys. But when my sister was up, she realized her dad had arrived. My sister just kept apologizing, and that was an emotional time for both of them. If you care, my sister was never really a daddy's girl and always preferred our mom over him. So when my mom started having her affairs, she was able to manipulate my sister into keeping secrets, and actually helping my mom hide them. Like, let's say my sister and mom will go on a girls' trip, my mom will just use that girls' trip to have affairs. Turns out my little brothers are not their dads, and my sister knew about it, and by the time my mom and their dad got divorced, my sister chose my mom. My sister even said to her dad, to his face, that she wished our mom's affair partner, the one that my mom is currently married to, was her real dad. Being betrayed by your wife is devastating, but being betrayed by your own daughter is a new low hit. By the way, the reason why we all found out my mom's was cheating on her husband, was because we walked on her having sleeping with my 17-year-old boyfriend. F you, Devin. If you're reading this, I know you are, you piece of shit, suck my D, and I hope you enjoy the gonorrhea my mom gave you. You were the one that got me into drugs at age 14, and I hate you. F you, Devin. You big head and little arms have an ass. Devin, you're the human equivalent of Discord light mode, and I hope your D falls off, or if you can even call it that. So that's why my ex-stepdad separated himself from my sister. He loves my little brothers, by the way. He's always picking them up, taking them on vacation, talking to them and hanging out with them, but he never interacts with my sister. Eventually my brothers came over to spend time with their dad, because they haven't seen him in a while. Then my siblings' dad talked to my grandfather, and they both decided it would be best for my siblings to go live with their dad. But, before my sister left, I asked her how she knew where our house was. Our mom told her. I asked how our mom knew, and my sister said she didn't know. Cool. Also, if you're asking if we report the abuse that my sister suffered living with my mom knows how to F you up without leaving a bruise, but we did report it. My mom surprisingly didn't go crazy like we all thought. She didn't try to take the boys or anything like that. She was surprisingly silent. But she was silently acting out her revenge. Now, on to Satan. I'm going to keep this part extremely vague because a lot of legal things are happening right now, but my mom and her cult following knew where we were the whole time. They got caught in 4K setting my in-laws' house on fire, and now they're missing. They were trying to kill all of us, and the reason why we're all not dead. We all was having a slumber party at MIL. There's a warrant out for my family's arrest. They lost her. They lost my mom. When I mean by they, I don't mean my family that's on my side, I also mean the police. They lost her. Everything in her house is still there, however, her social media is gone, her cunty siblings are gone, and no one knows where they went. Now I'm afraid for my life. And it doesn't help that we still don't know who gave my mom those pictures of my children, nor do we know who was the one who gave our location. We have been doing what you all suggesting, faking information and giving to different people, but we still haven't found out who gave my mom the information, and I'm terrified. Not just for my children, but for myself. I'm losing it. Some of you think I'm being tough. I'm so brave that I just keep moving forward. That is bullshit. I have been having tons of nightmares of my mom taking my children, killing my husband, and leaving me destitute. I have been having multiple mental breakdowns. I just cried while doing nothing. I'm not doing okay. Some of my brothers-in-laws and their wives jumped on me after half of their house burned down, with the fact that all of this is my fault. Which it is. The results of that made me slip back into 13-year-old me, and I hurt myself. I just couldn't take the pressure from people that used to treat me like my family. And some of them were telling my husband to divorce me, because I'm just going to drag him deeper into my mess. I wish I never let that woman back into my life. If I did, none of this would have happened. I got diagnosed with depression and am currently on some anti-version of it. My in-laws were divided into people that wish my husband had never met me and the people that feel sorry for me. That was until I ended up in the hospital and my MIL lost it on all of them. But, there's a high possibility that my oldest BIL and his wife are divorcing now, and that one's on me. Two different views about the situation, and it caused the rift between both of them. It's my fault. My husband has been really stepping up and taking care of everything. Because I am legit useless at the moment. To cheer me up, my husband let me open my Christmas gift early. A photo album, and with a title that says, The Life of, my middle name. My husband and my dad have been working on it for a long time, and they were planning on giving it to me this year. It was full of my milestones, accomplishments, and things I have done for other people. And I cried when I felt like less of a burden. We're currently staying with a friend of my husband's. I know this friend's daughter from high school and she always comes down for the holidays, so it's really nice to see her again. And that's basically my fucked up update. As I type this, my husband and his friend are being turned into pretty little princesses by their nieces/daughters. Also, my dad. This Christmas would be the first without him and I hate it. Every year my dad and I would watch Home Alone, smoke a joint, get high and then watch the lights on the Christmas tree. When my daughter was born, my dad and I continued our routine, but left out the marijuana. I feel lost. Will this feeling ever go away? My birthday is on the 2 and I not think I can handle it. Update 6. It's only a joke if everybody is laughing. This happened last night. I'm doing better today, so you get this. Now. On your right, you have my childhood trauma. And on your left, you have my mental state. Don't touch it, it's fragile. My family, husband, our daughter, the twins, and I have been staying with his friend, who I will call Diavolo, for a little while now because of my mother and her cult following. To make a long story short, my mom was physically and emotionally abusive towards me all through my childhood. She was a liar and a snake. Now, I'm an adult and she still is a liar and a snake. She even got worse. Recently I lost my dad. That's the only reason why I went back into contact with her, because I felt like I needed a parent. I don't know why I felt like that, because my mom was never a parent in the first place. It was a mistake. Since the beginning, my mom has been trying to get rid of my husband. I should have stopped talking to her when she tried to frame my husband for cheating, but I didn't. Then over the last couple months everything just got worse. To make a long story even shorter, she told everyone my husband pushed me down the stairs, telling people that my husband was physically and sexually abusing my daughter and I. Then she tried to stab me, and that's how I got a restraining order on my mom. My husband and I moved from one house to another, to get away from my mom and her cult following. But, in the end they found us and my mom and her following burned down the house we were staying in. The home was also occupied by 4 of my brother-in-laws and their family. The blame got put on me, I started self-harming and now I'm on antidepressants. I just want everything to stop. When we explained what was happening to Diavolo, he graciously opened up his home to us. So, we're staying here. I like Diavolo, I think he's nice, hot, plus I went to high school with his daughter, so he's not a complete stranger. Diavolo treats my daughter like his niece and I like a sister. It is vice versa with my husband and Diavolo's children. Diavolo has 5 kids. His children that's important to this story are Jenny and Dickhead. Dickhead lives with Diavolo, while Jenny, she's the one I went to high school with, only visits on holidays. Well, it's the holidays and Jenny came down with her boyfriend. It was nice to see her, and as Jenny hasn't seen any of us in a long time, they wanted to go out for dinner. I didn't want to go because of my daughter and my 2 babies. The twins barely even have an immune system and I didn't want to bring them out. That was part of it, but the main reason is I was afraid that my mom would take them. Ever since the fire, I have enveloped an unhealthy attachment to my children. I'm now overprotective of them, to the point where I didn't let my daughter go to school for a while. Dickhead said that he could watch them, but I still didn't want to go. My husband told me that I needed a break, and when my therapist agreed with my husband, I agreed. It wasn't easy, but I was able to power through the panic, and it was a nice feeling to be around people that make me feel love. The Christmas lights are up in this town, so before dinner we got some hot chocolate and just walked. It was really nice. Now, on to the reason why I gave the name Dickhead to the Dickhead. I gave Dickhead only one rules about my children. I just wanted him to keep his phone on so I can talk to him periodically through the night just to make sure my children were okay. So, as we're driving to the restaurant I sent the Dickhead a text message saying, "How's everything going?" When he didn't respond after 7 minutes, I will admit that sent me into a panic. But when my husband sent the cock cranium a message, the shit responded to him, so I was able to calm down. Well, during dinner I noticed it was about 9:15, so I sent Dickhead a message, telling him to make sure my daughter has her scarf on her head while she sleeps. But, he didn't respond, so, at 9:24 I sent Phallus Skull another message. When he didn't answer I started to panic, but, when my husband texted him, he responded and apologized to me for not answering my message. Then at 10:11 Peckernoggin sent a message that read, "Your mom is here." The panic I was trying to keep down just bubbled to the surface. I lost it. I showed my husband the message and I just went into full panic. It's kind of a blur, but apparently I started crying. I tried to leave to go get my babies and I tried to fight my husband when he tried to stop me. As I was coming back to reality I heard the words, "It was a joke." He was joking, so, yeah, it was a joke. That PP scalp thought it would be funny to play a prank on me by using my physically, emotionally a danger to herself and others' mom. As we were leaving the restaurant there was both Diavolo and Jenny screaming down the phone at someone. Guess who? When we got back to the house, Dickhead tried to apologize to me. I didn't care what he had to say, I just wanted to make sure my children were safe. When I saw them sleeping I just broke down. I didn't feel safe anymore, so I asked my husband if we could leave. Diavolo didn't want us to go, so he kicked out his son. Willie Dome tried to protest, saying it was a joke. It was meant to be funny, he didn't know I would cry. Diavolo said Addison is autistic and not sound of mind. You deliberately caused her stress, to the point where the restaurant called the police on us. You had plenty of time to back out on your little joke, but you went through with it anyway. I thought you stopped this behavior after what you did to your mom, but, clearly now, I was mistaken. You are a grown man, he is 24 by the way, and you're still doing this type of shit. I'm tired of it. The Schlong Dimmadome, owner of the Dickhead Dimmadome, continued saying that it was just a prank and he didn't know I would get all worked up and worried. Jenny said, we was also worried. We were worried about your safety and well-being, and we were afraid that you might have been hurt. Once again the dickhead said it was just a prank. Diavolo said, you scared us. What you did wasn't a prank. You were just being a dickhead, see? A dickhead. Yeah, the dickhead grabbed his shit and left for his girlfriend's. I was having trouble sleeping, so my husband rubbed my back until I went to sleep. I love my super sweet, man-child. Diavolo and Jenny apologized to me. Now, a few things. 1, I'm definitely not going to leave my children alone anytime soon. 2, I feel truly embarrassed for how I reacted at the restaurant, and 3, I'm actually pissed, because I couldn't finish my chicken and waffles. I have an intolerance towards chicken and I'm barely allowed to eat it, so that shit just got ruined even more. Yeah, that's it. I tried to kill that bee but that pedo got in the way. My mom, while being arrested after she tried to kill me. Update 7. You still think my mom is innocent? I'm 23 now. Nice. I'm sorry I have been gone for a long time. Things just keep happening and my mind not being mentally well, affected me to the point I didn't really want to talk to people. I'm just going to jump right into it. My mom had plans to kill me. She documented how she was planning on killing me. However, my mom's plans changed when she saw me. She saw her opportunity and took it. First of all, we found a tracking device on the car. They were following us this whole entire time. Also, we found out who was giving my mom pictures of our children. We moved away and we got a nice house. It's big enough for a lot of kids, a nice open spacious yard so we can get that damn goose my daughter wants. We even got a new car. We tried to get away, we truly did, but she still found us. We were leaving an ice cream parlor. I thought my husband was playing around but he was trying to shield us because he saw my mom first. I held him as he slowly bleed out. My husband was still trying to smile but I could see the pain in his eyes. This all happened in front of 3 children including our 4-year-old. My husband is going to have a long, painful, slow recovery. I'm crying while typing this because my husband is the love of my life. If it wasn't because of Ro I would probably be dead by now. We have a 4-year-old, and we just had 2 more babies a couple of months ago. Azalea is the best thing that ever happened to me and I can't do this without him. His family is harassing me. My husband has a lot of siblings and I never realized how toxic they were towards me in recent incidents. I thought they stopped with the mean comments but apparently, they went quiet about it. Only a handful of my husband's siblings actually love me and I divided the family. I ruined a family and I destroyed my own family, all because I let that woman back into my life. And she was trying to kill me. While she was being arrested, my mom said, I tried to kill that bitch but that pedo got in the way, and to the kid that got hit in crossfire I'm sorry. My mom didn't get away this time as she's currently locked up. I hope that bitch burns for what she did to me, to my family, and honestly, I have one question. Do you think my mom is innocent? My mom was physically, emotionally, and according to my therapist, incest towards me when I was a kid. And after all of that, some of you still claim my mom is innocent and that my husband is the problem. How about now? I brought that woman around my daughter and I regret it immensely. I was going to talk about how I met my husband and how everything started from nothing to 3 children. I'm not ready to admit that I'm more like my mom than I led myself to believe. However, I would say my husband and I know we're not going to grow old together, but we are proud of this family we built. I'm very grateful for my flower, my husband, because of him I was able to go to rehab and get my shit together. So, with that being said, go F yourself for telling me that my husband is going to start beating me and our children and molesting our children. Eat my ass. If I really was a victim of my husband, do you think insulting me would make me see sense? Like some of you got really mean. If that is how you treat supposed victims, I'll hate to see how you treat real ones. Damn. The people who don't believe me, and you probably still don't believe me after reading this shit. Honestly, I don't blame you. I wouldn't believe myself if it wasn't happening directly to me. And for people who have been checking up on me in direct messages, I am extremely grateful. Thank you for your kindness. On some happier news, my nephew got adopted by my husband's older brother, so my 15-year-old sister doesn't have to worry about the burden of a child. Watching my 45-year-old brother-in-law interact with a baby is so funny to me, like you have this Wednesday Addams look-alike and this tiny red-headed happy baby. My husband is trying to recover. He's been a really good sport about being shot by my mom, by the way. Update 8. The time I stood up to my mom and the result was a broken arm. So I wasn't about to share the story, but my therapist told me that sharing my stories would help me. I usually share these types of stories with my brother-in-law, but I put too much stress on him already. So you, Reddit, you get this fucked up shit. Also, some people ask for some more unhinged bullshit about my childhood, so here you go. Warning, abuse on a child. This story is in bits and pieces in my mind as I try to block out a lot of the abuse my mom put me through. Go through my post history if you want to see some more unhinged about my mom. I think I was about 9 years old when I was diagnosed with autism. My mom wasn't happy, because she didn't want a retard for a daughter, in her own words. However, my mother used my autism as a way to gloat. Your kid plays the piano? Well, my daughter has autism and knows how to play the violin and the piano. Oh, your kid likes fishing? Well, my daughter has autism and just recently caught a largemouth bass. Your child speaks Spanish? My daughter has autism and speaks several different languages. Your child reads at a middle school level? Well, my autistic daughter skip a grade and shit like that. But my mom is AC, so she treated me like dog shit. When people were around, she was proud of me, but when we were in private I was just that retard that would amount to nothing. One day I went down to the kitchen and my mom and her friends were there. I said hi to the women and one of the women had a name that I could not pronounce, so when I said hi to her I stumbled on her name, and that one incident started a chain of abuse. Imagine 4 women in their 20s making fun of a child to her face. And I stutter and cried, because that shit hurt my feelings, and one of them asked my mom how the hell did she get a retarded daughter, and my mom said she didn't know, it must be her father's DNA. I was just tired of my mom, so when she started making fun of me with her friends I got pissed off and threw my glass at her. But sadly my glass missed. It just went over her head. The cunts went silent. They looked at me, and I looked at them crying, pissed as hell. Like I was doing the Arthur fist, meme lords knows what that is, I was that pissed. Then my mom grabbed me by the collar and slapped the shit out of me. Then she hit me again, screaming at me with the usual horrible bullshit she called me. Then my mom grabbed me by the hair and dragged me up the stairs, so she could beat me properly without witnesses. Slaps became fists and she kicked me in the stomach when I was down. When she stopped beating me, my mom washed my blood off her hands and went back downstairs to have fun with her friends. Meanwhile, I'm on the floor, crying in pain. Hours later I was in excruciating pain and it took one of our gardeners and my nanny to realize there was something seriously wrong with me. They convinced my mom to take me to the hospital, and we found out I had a broken arm and I think my ribs were bruised also. My own mom broke my arm. My mom told everyone that I fell off the balcony and I agreed with her that I fell off the balcony. My nanny and the gardener knew my mom did something to me. They saw how my mom was treating me, but they really couldn't do anything as my nanny only had a work visa, and I'm pretty sure the gardener was illegal. Plus my mom already got some of our house workers arrested for sexual assault. She even used my cousin to say something like, one of the maids touched me in my no-no area. All my mom has to do is put on the puppy dog face and cry her little eyes out and boom. People believes her because she is a massive manipulator. So messing with my mom would cost you your life. And you are probably asking why didn't my mom's friends do anything to try and help? I don't know. I don't think they know how bad my mom was beating my ass. Maybe they didn't know, maybe they were afraid of her, maybe they didn't care. All I know is I let that woman around my child and I will never forgive myself. Some things from my childhood followed me till this day, a fear of women, which is funny because I'm bi, and a fear of my mom. I'm in therapy. I'm going to get better, but they're going to take some time until I'm better. Maybe until that bitch dies. I probably feel better then. I'm going to piss on her grave when she dies. The abuse will die with me. I refuse to let my children suffer the same childhood as I did. My siblings didn't suffer the same childhood as I did. I took the abuse on purpose so they wouldn't have suffered. After a while, my mom stopped hitting me, cause she realized I would not stand for that shit and hit back. Luckily my mom is currently locked up for trying to kill me. And to the people who still say my husband is the problem, you do know if my husband was the same age as me my mom will still be a psychopathic, see right. Update 9. Devin. My ex who cheated on me with my mom and received gonorrhea from her. As my ex is pissed by the fact that I keep telling people that my mom gave him gonorrhea and he wants me to stop. So, I'm going to tell a story about how my ex Devin contracted gonorrhea. This is going to be paraphrased and shortened. Back in 2014, I was forced into ballet by my mother. I hated it, as I wasn't the ballerina type, so I fought with my mom, but in the end, I ended up giving up and went anyway. And that is how I met Devin. He was the most beautiful ballerina I ever saw. He carried himself with grace, his smile was intoxicating and everybody wanted a piece of Devin, but he only had eyes for me. It didn't take long before we started dating. He was 16 and I was 14. I was in love with Devin. He was supposed to be my knight in shining armor, however, Devin was just a pussy wrapped up in tin foil. About 5 months into our relationship, Devin and I went to a party. Halfway through the party I lost Devin, so I went looking for him. I found him receiving a blowjob from another girl. I just walked away. I was trying to walk home when the cunt muffin rolled up, telling me to get in his car. I didn't want to. I told Devin to go F himself. I would rather walk home in the goddamn dark than deal with his bitch ass. I don't remember how Devin convinced me to get in his car, but when I did, I just wanted to know why. Why did he cheat on me? That son of a bitch tried to gaslight me. Nothing like that happened. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. I saw nothing. It was not what it seemed. I was making things up. I would not buy that shit, because I know what I saw. Then Devin cut off the headlights of his car and just floored it down the dirt road with no street lights, and just screamed how he was going to kill both of us and how when someone found our bodies, they just assumed it was an accident. Devin then stopped the car and told me that if I bring up that girl one more time it won't end well for me. Devin drove me home after that. I should have left him after that, but I was just so afraid of him. It didn't take long for the physical and emotional abuse to start. Dating Devin was like dating my mom. He would scream at me, cry and stomp his foot when I didn't do what he wanted me to. Hit me, repeatedly. Pressured me into sex, forced me to do angel dust. Threatened to kill himself when I refused to talk to him. We dated for a year and in that year I experienced hell. I didn't tell people what was happening, because I was afraid that no one would believe me. On to the story. I had tennis practice, but halfway through my practice I started to feel sick, so I called my stepdad to pick me up and take me home. Before we pulled into the driveway there was Devin's car. It wasn't all surprising as sometimes Devin would just be in the house waiting for me. Then, as we walked into the house, we heard them. My mom and Devin weren't quiet. My stepdad pulled out his phone to record and then we went upstairs and walked on Devin jackhammering my mom. There was a lot of screaming, threats, and crying. My stepdad and I went to the car, then we drove to a parking lot and just cried, while our phones were blowing up. My stepdad then sent the video of my mom and Devin to both of Devin's parents. My ex-in-laws asked for a meeting, they exchanged information and my stepdad told them he would see them in court. His parents try to play it off like Devin was a victim. 1. The legal age of consent in my hometown is 16 and he was 17 at the time. 2. No, he effing wasn't. If you watch the video, Devin was trying to smack the phone out of my stepdad's hand, and when I started crying asking him how he can do this to me, Devin started telling me to stop crying because I wasn't even that good at sex anyway. My stepdad and I went back to the house. I just went to my room while he went to pack his stuff to leave. My mom came into my room and I was crying, because, even though Devin was a piece of shit, he was still my boyfriend. My mom started making fun of me for crying. It's not my fault that your boyfriend wanted me. Boo-hoo, stop crying, maybe you put on some more makeup, you can keep a man. Then she went on to say how Devin pleased her so well. That he knows how to make her come like a real man, and unlike my stepdad he knows where the clit was, that Devin would always tell her that she's tighter than I am. All the while Devin was trying to call me. Y'all. Devin's way of apology was to blame me. I'm sorry you had to see that, but if you spend more time with me I wouldn't have been seeking other women. Your mom was there for me and she cared for me, you abandoned me when I need you the most. Blah blah blah, victim blaming, like, I gave you my heart and soul. I put my needs on the back burner for yours. What the fuck do you want from me? Then Devin switched tactics, trying to convince me that I misunderstood the situation, like, motherfucker. I walked on you sleeping with my mom. You flip-floppy bastard. So fast forward to the time I went to school, I didn't talk to my mom or Devin at that time, so Devin's sister spread the news to the school that Devin had sex with my mom. Now, I was afraid to tell people that Devin was abusing me because I knew no one would believe me, because Devin had this good boy reputation. Only a few people have seen how awful Devin truly was. However, Devin let his mask slip and hit me in front of the whole student body. The funny part about Devin hitting me is the fact that no one believed he was having sex with my mom. No one believed that until he hit me and started screaming that I ruined his reputation. He just had to keep his fucking mouth shut. We were separated and I had to explain to the principal and our guidance counselor that that wasn't the first time Devin had hit me. That boy did a lot worse things to me than just hit me. Do you want to hear some mass up shit? Before me, Devin was in a relationship with a girl and he did the same thing he did to me to her. She told people and no one believed her because, like I said above, Devin was a good boy in everybody's eyes. They isolated that girl to the point where she had to move away. No one believed her, until Devin slapped me, and it didn't help that Devin threw a tantrum. He got suspended because he broke things in his tantrum. After that, a lot of people came forward and spoke about how Devin was secretly a piece of shit. Devin's parents gave my stepdad some money to keep it out of court, and then moved away because of shame. And my stepdad and my mom got divorced because Devin wasn't the only person my mom was cheating with. By the way, my mom never stopped seeing Devin. That bitch took him on elaborate trips. They went to Hawaii, Disneyland, and goddamn Texas. Devin and my mom were a match made in hell. But, karma prevails. Devin suffered a leg injury and he can't do ballet anymore and he got fat, my mom left him, his parents abandoned him, and the last time I checked he works at a auto store and lives with his sister. And to top all that my mom gave him gonorrhea. How is your leg? I know you're reading this, you piece of shit. It's a shame, isn't it? You tried your best to live a good life but in the end you're in debt, fat as hell and worth nothing. But me? I'm in love, happily married to a dude who treats me like a queen and has 3 babies. Eat the dirtiest part of my ass, Devin. Edit, Devin's seen this post. I repeat, Devin's seen this post. Devin's in the audience, people. Look alive. Edit 2, user/saltyfembot is not Devin, leave that person alone. Should have said this earlier. That is not Devin. Never realized some of y'all was attacking the poor dude. Leave them alone. And no, that's not my real account, that is just a Redditor that comment on a post. Leave them alone, that's not me and that's not Devin. Leave them alone.